Walking around downtown these days, it's hard to miss how quiet some of those big office buildings feel.
Yeah, definitely quieter.
Turns out a growing number are actually trading spreadsheets for sleep. We're taking a deep dive today into this trend of converting vacant offices into apartments.
It's a really fascinating response, isn't it? You've got this double whammy. Way more office vacancies since, 2020, and this housing shortage that just won't quit in major cities.
Exactly.
In 2024, that really felt like the year these conversions started getting serious traction, like really taking off.
Okay, so our mission today, pretty simple. Let's figure out what's driving this, where it's happening most, and, what it actually means for our cities.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the money, the bottom line. Why convert an old office building instead of just building new apartments from scratch?
Well, a lot of the time it really boils down to the acquisition costs. Buying an existing office building, one that's underused, that can be significantly cheaper than getting vacant land for a totally new build. Ah, okay. That initial saving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be a huge motivator to get a project started.
And what about the actual conversion work? What kind of investment are we talking about to, transform these spaces?
It's definitely a substantial undertaking, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the financial side often gets a boost from incentives.
Incentives. Like what?
Think tax breaks, for starters. Some cities are offering property day tax abatements, maybe for 10 years, sometimes more. That really helps the long-term numbers.
Right.
Plus, you're seeing some creative financing pop up. Things like green bonds, specifically for sustainable reuse projects like these, and new federal and state programs aimed directly at spurring these conversions.
So the cities themselves are actively trying to kind of pave the way, make it easier.
Precisely. Places like New York City, definitely. Los Angeles, too. They updated their adaptive reuse ordinance, which helps a lot.
I heard about that. Yeah, and Boston created a special conversion bond district in their financial area. DC, Chicago, they're all looking at ways to streamline approvals, get these things moving faster with like fast track ordinances.
Okay, but it can't all be smooth sailing. There must be hurdles besides just the cash.
Oh, absolutely. You run into things like inclusionary housing requirements, where they mandate a certain number of affordable units that can sometimes complicate the project's financial model.
Makes sense.
And then there's always, potential community concerns or navigating local zoning rules. Those can present real challenges.
Right, right. So it's not just a rubber stamp process.
Mhm.
Okay, what about the buildings themselves? I mean, turning an office layout into somewhere people actually want to live, that sounds tricky.
That's where the design and engineering puzzles come in, and where the ingenuity happens too. Office buildings often have these really deep floor plans, right?
Yeah. Huge floors.
So getting natural light into the middle spaces, that's tough. And the HVAC systems, they're usually designed for a 9 to 5 office crowd, not 247 residential living.
So how are developers tackling those kinds of architectural problems?
Well, we're seeing some really creative solutions like carving out atriums or light wells, punching holes basically to bring daylight deeper inside.
Huh.
Sometimes designing smaller units so more apartments get direct window access and using those less desirable interior spaces for amenity floors, gyms, lounges, co-working spots, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But interestingly, sometimes the structural changes needed are just so massive, so complex, that it actually pencils out better to just demolish the whole thing and rebuild.
Wow. Really? Demolish and start over. That's surprising.
It happens, depends on the building.
Can you give us a couple of real-world examples? Where is this actually happening?
Sure. A big one is the old Ernst & Young headquarters at 5 Times Square in New York City. That's slated to become something like 12,050 apartments.
Wow, 12,250. That's huge.
Yeah, it is. And we mentioned downtown LA's proactive approach with their ordinance. That's led to quite a few successful projects already. And Boston's conversion bond district is providing real financial backing in their financial district, tangible support.
Okay, so zooming out a bit.
Yeah.
Who are the winners here? And are there potential losers in this kind of urban reshuffling?
Well, broadly, the owners of those vacant office buildings, they stand to benefit, obviously. The construction industry gets a boost. And crucially, it should increase the housing supply for renters. That's the big hope.
And for the neighborhoods?
Existing neighborhoods might see revitalization, more foot traffic, more life after 5 p.m. Though you always have to consider potential strains on like local schools or transit.
Sure.
And there's an environmental angle too. Reusing an existing building structure generally means a lower embodied carbon footprint. That's the energy already baked into the building's materials compared to building brand new. ESG considerations are definitely part of the conversation.
Right, the sustainability aspect.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what's the forecast? Is this trend going to keep growing?
The pipeline looks pretty strong, actually. Current projections show a significant number of these conversion projects
Yeah.
expected to come online in the next few years, say 2025 through 2027.
Yeah.
But, well, if there was a really major rebound in demand for traditional office space, that could certainly change the equation, slow things down. It's something to watch.
So it really sounds like these office to apartment conversions are, well, a really dynamic and pretty significant strategy for how our cities are adapting right now, trying to meet current needs.
Exactly right. It's this complex mix of, economics, city policy, design innovation, and just basic societal needs for housing.
Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Considering all these complex factors and the potential benefits, what are some of the maybe unexpected long-term ripple effects this trend might have on the actual fabric of our cities, how we live in them day to day? Definitely something to think about.